Do you want to play better golf? Of course you do. Well, here are 3 easy ways to do it. 1. Open your smartphone and look for the podcast app. 2. Open the podcast app and search Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan. 3. Subscribe and never miss an episode of great golf instructor interviews from around the world. A new guest every week, like David Ledbetter, Brian Manzella, Dr. Sashow McKenzie, James Siekman, just to name a few. Hear their insight as they deliver their wisdom of the game. Take control of your game. Subscribe today. Your game will thank you for it.
Welcome to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf podcast that interviews the best and brightest minds in the golf industry. Now, here's your host, Bernard Sheridan.
Jason, welcome to Breaking Par. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey, my pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about, first, when was the very first time you picked up a golf club?
I want to say I was somewhere between 10 and 11, and I was at my grandfather's house with a couple of my uncles, and they go, here, hit this ball in the backyard. Oh, you do that pretty well as a baseball player at the time. We'll go to the range. And so we did that eventually, and that all just sort of led into falling in love with it.
So once you did fall in love with it, did you start playing in events and things like that, or competitively, or did you just play? Did you play at school, or did you just play a lot with buddies? I mean,
all of the above, really. It was starting out on my local county course just outside the New York City area, Bergen County, New Jersey courses, and was going out there with my uncle and my grandfather. I wasn't any good, but and that was at 12, because you had to be a certain age to get your access to the course. And then for my 13th birthday, which was in March, I saved up all my Christmas money, all my birthday money, and I bought a $300 membership to the town's 9-hole course. That junior membership, you could play after 3, so I did that as much as I could. I started caddying, and then eventually got to high school golf, where I was playing more competitively.
Nice, nice. So when was the aha moment that happened when you said, hey, you know what? I'd like to maybe do this as a career?
There were 2, actually. The first was I was doing my summer loops at the local country club, and making a pretty good living for a 14, 15-year-old kid at the time, getting to practice a little bit and feeling, yeah, I could be pretty good here. I'm basically giving lessons out on the course to the members that needed help on each hole. From there, I saw the teaching pro over on the range, and saw him there hour after hour after hour. And I thought, okay, he could do it, I could do it. And that, to me, was one of the points of going, okay, that's what I want to do. It had to be my sophomore year of high school. My coach passes out a local newspaper article that says, majoring golf at college, and what it was alluding to was the professional golf management programs that are available through select universities. And I go, okay, well, what's that all about? The PGA of America. And then I find there's this distinction of, master professional in the PGA of America. That sounds like the track I want to go on. So those were sort of the aha moments that came about for me.
So, and where was the first club that you ended up teaching?
I was actually down at the PGA Village in Port St. Lucie, Florida. That was 2006 that I got down there. This was outside of being in school. That was a great experience, because at the PGA Village, there's a ton of high-name professionals coming through there running classes, and they had some great education going on at that point in time. That was a great, just whirlwind of golf coaching that I got to experience because of that facility. And then my first full-time teaching position was director of instruction at Upper Montclair Country Club in 2012. 2010.
And where was that located?
Clifton, New Jersey.
Clifton, New Jersey.
Yeah, New York City.
Okay. And you're from North Jersey?
I am. So that was a place I had worked a summer in college, and actually got to play there just a few months ago after 5 years removed. And it's a spectacular club. It's a busy place right outside New York City with great clientele, and it was a chance for a young gun to give it a ride and get down to Florida in the wintertime and keep working on my game.
Nice, nice. So what made you come up with the name Fore Golf?
Well, I again kind of have two parts to that. I have the cringe side, that back before there was caller ID and you knew exactly who you were talking to all the time, you get somebody calling the home landline, may I talk to Mr. Sedan, Mr. Sedan, all these different things, and my parents would answer the phone and say, Sedan, like the four-door. And I just go, good God, come on. Get down to Florida, my nickname from some of my golfing buddies down there just became, hey, four-door. And I embraced it. I said, I'm going to make something out of this. And that today stands as Fore Golf.
That's very clever. And I would have never have thought that. And I wasn't sure exactly how your last name was pronounced, whether it was Sedan or Sedan. And I guess it could be either or because of the way it's spelled. But that's perfect, man. That's a perfect name.
And to me, it's not about a certain style of coaching. It's about compartmentalizing information for the viewing public out there to figure out what is it that I'm trying to get better at, what portion of this whole golf world, and I'm just chunking it up.
It's excellent. It's excellent. So, what are some of the things that you work on with the average student that comes in to your facility?
Well, if it's a new student, we go through an assessment phase that is either, depending on one's level, a 9-hole play with the pro, or a 90-minute skills assessment where I go through putting, pitching, and full swing. That's for somebody that's like, I'm looking for the scouting report on. Alternatively, we have the different avenues, right? It's do you need to understand your clubs better? Do you need to work on your body a little bit to get the right motions? Is there something going on in your swing that we need to identify and kind of work through drills or practice routines? And then ultimately what I try and pride myself on is doing as much on-course coaching as possible, getting to the context of where the game is played. And I just don't know of another sport that the coach doesn't make it to the game. So while I'm not going to play every single round of golf with my students, that's trying to bridge the gap as being on the golf course in the environment. And then, of course, there are the necessary components that make that successful. One of my programs is the practice club that I run 3 days a week at my facility, both here in New Hampshire as well as in Florida. And that is, all the stuff that someone comes and expects a golf lesson to be, and we're going to practice and we're going to work through different facets of the game. That really is observed practice time. And I try and keep the coaching time as I structure it for programs, again, as much on the course as it can be.
Do you do any like lesson T type, standard lesson T type lessons with any technology at all, or do you try to do the bulk of what you do always on the course?
It depends on where we're at, right? So I try and take the one-on-one time in 2 phases. It's going to be either assessment or evaluation. So I do use some 3D technology. I do use some launch monitor technology. I have focus band. I have great technology that I just try and purpose on an as-needed basis. I think one of the beautiful things about having all that technology is then not having to use it. You get to the point, and a lot of times students think that technology is for them. It's like going to get your MRI and then trying to read that all yourself. Well, that's the doctor. So if I want to verify a feel, like we know this player's cutting across it, you can turn on a launch monitor device and say just how much. Hey, you got half as much that time, even though you felt like you were doing something that could be way out of your comfort zone. That's right on track for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that, that where we are too, the bulk of what we're using that technology is for first, like kind of an assessment value, understanding what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then when we do use it, we're kind of using it to help them feel what they're doing, and how they're creating these, their path, and how what their feet are doing, and what their workhorse or their core is doing in the swing, and things like that. There's no doubt.
I mean, so much at our fingertips as instructors now. It's easy to think you're going to go use something, and after all of those gadgets and whatnot, video is still a very powerful tool to be able to show somebody what they're doing. And the light years ahead that we are now, being out on the golf course, I can still film either with my phone or with an iPad 240 frames a second, and I Bluetooth it to a Apple TV with a 32-inch screen on the back of my golf cart when we're in the middle of the 17th fairway, and can say, hey, look how you're set up for that downsloping lie. And it's so instantaneous that it really gets the point across.
No, and that's a great way to do it. I mean, that sounds awesome. I mean, it's a great setup, and to be able to be out there and then have a screen that big where they can actually see it pretty well, and see what the heck is going on. Do you have the capability to do any drawings on that?
100%. So anything that you're doing on your phone or iPad. So I use an app. I was a big fan of Coach's Eye. They have a great piece of software. I've since switched over to Huddle. Just the side-by-side recording is a little bit clearer. And then everything that I feel like the student should retain, whether it's just showing them, or if it's like, hey, you want to remember this, I scoot that over into Edufy, just exporting it, and it all lives in the cloud. It's all accessible 24/7 to the student. So the remote coaching capabilities are pretty impressive these days as well.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I mean, what we use Edufy too, and what I love about that is that students can also send you swings when they're not near you,
right.
And then you can kind of even do your little drawing with Edufy and do a voiceover for them and send it back to them, and it's really it just makes things so much easier, especially for a guy like you who's traveling back and forth. I know that for me, I'm kind of permanently in Florida now, but I do have a lot of students that I see in season, and then they go back up north. So that gives me the opportunity to, if they're back up north, they can send me something if they want, and then I can look at it and we can converse back and forth. I think probably it's one of the, out of all the technology that's out there, I think that's one of the greatest. Even, and I know TrackMan and FlightScope and Foresight and Swing Catalyst and 4D and 3D and all these other different things are great, but they're not that easy for a student to use. But Edufy is really very friendly to both the student and the instructor, and very simplistic to use, and it just makes it a lot easier to do things.
Exactly. To me, it's all about establishing a line of communication, a relationship with the student. All instructors, I shouldn't say all, but I hear this time and again, they want the recurring students, not because it's good for the bank account, but because it's more fun when you get to understand the nitty gritty. When you got to pull back the first layer of the onion every single time with a student running through a golf school or a student running through a one-off lesson, it only gets so deep with the changes that you can make. And I have clients for, since my beginnings of PGA Village and Upper Montclair Country Club that still follow me to my locations today. And those are some of the, while infrequent, most enjoyable sessions because, hey, if you're doing something funky, well, we just fix that up with this feel that we remember from however long ago. And likewise, we get the ball in the hole faster. We can get right out to the golf course. We can get right into, hey, here's what your stat tracking looks like these days and how we might want to organize that time.
Now, do you do any group coaching programs other than just your like practice type things or your practice evaluation type stuff, or is it just the practice?
Florida, we've got a Get Golf Ready program that runs for essentially new to golf, new to the club, new to golf instruction, get a tasting of it. And we actually run that in the heart of season down at Orchid Island Golf and Beach Club for 6 weeks and just give them sort of the overview, try and get them comfortable. And I've got various different guest instructor things that I try and do with different 1 and 2 day experiences throughout the year. There is less of a demand in the environments that I teach currently for I would love to do a Biggest Loser program, somebody who's losing the most strokes over a period of time. But I am very fortunate to be at some higher end facilities where people just kind of value their time on their terms and would rather get their one-on-ones. We do have a weekly ladies clinic here at Lake Winnipesaukee Golf Club that is very well received. We button that up with when they go and play their weekly game, and it's a nice event to put together where everybody comes out and works on something, and then they can follow up with practice club time.
Now, how about the playing lessons? Do you do any of the group playing lessons, or are most of your playing lessons one-on-one?
Yeah, I would say that's a differing thing from Florida to New Hampshire. I do a lot of couples lessons up here, and down in Florida, it's almost exclusively one-on-one. That is what I'll say on-course coaching, because a lot of people think playing lessons, and this is something that's worth clarifying, are 9 or 18 holes. I do 45-minute appointments, and if I'm on the golf course, generally it makes sense to go like 90 minutes. Whether that is 10 holes, 2 holes, doesn't matter to me. It depends what we're working on at the time. And I've aligned with facilities that allow me the course access to be completely flexible in that. I stay out of the way of what's going on from a day-to-day operation, but there's very few times that I don't have course accessibility available to me, and that's one of the most exciting things that I can offer my students in return. So from that perspective, I have on-course coaching in a one-on-one or two-on-one. I have done some 3-on-1 coaching, and that is usually a minimum of 90 minutes, and sometimes we'll go a full 2 hours plus just to get enough reps through everyone. But flip that script for just a minute. I mentioned playing with the pro, and that again is my scouting report. I do 9 holes Friday mornings up here in New Hampshire and 18 holes Sunday mornings, and that gets me out on the golf course, gets me experiencing things with my students, getting a full picture of their games. So I try and treat that again like other sports as a scouting report. You have then your mini camps of, hey, we're going to grind in these golf schools to work on some things. You have sort of season-long practices, and then you have your recurring games, which is maybe me upping the ante in one-on-one on-course coaching to really put their test to the fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you have that many different options and programs for players to take advantage of. Now, because you have so many, do you find that a lot of the students who come in are kind of not sure what to choose from because there's just so much on the menu? Or do you think that they kind of look and say, yeah, I know exactly what I want to do? And because I find that most players are really not sure what they want or what they need.
Exactly. So very few of them understand what practice club is. They still call it, are you doing that clinic today? When are these clinics? the key to me in all of this is they know they want to get better. And then they come in, they schedule an appointment or perhaps a new student assessment. And we sit down and we just talk about how you're going to get better. Hey, do you think it would be good if we get out to the golf course? Do you think it'd be good if you knew how to practice a little better and I was there to make sure, what you were doing was where we're going? Do you think it makes sense for us to have some one-on-one coaching time because you enjoy that? And then I present programs. So I offer a season pass to the practice club. That's a big advantage to non-members of the facility up here to have access to a premier practice facility, as well as what I call game improvement club, which is sort of the all-inclusive. We're going to spend quite a bit of one-on-one time. You're going to play golf with me at least monthly for 18 holes or 2 9-hole rounds. And, at that point, not everybody's ready for the price tag that comes with that. So there's bite-sized chunks. We just, as we're standing here today, just had Father's Day eclipse, and that's a big time for my summer season to do some snippets. I have a program of 9 holes of play with the pro, 5 private coaching sessions, and 5 practice club sessions that would normally retail for $9.55. That's how I kind of package that and make it understandable. And for Father's Day, I flip the script and do it for $5.59. So it's a heck of a deal.
Wow, that's great. That's
right?
an awesome deal. That's an awesome deal.
Yeah, so I'm blowing up now, and now so that sort of gets me going for, all right, here's what we're trying to do. If we've already gotten together, we know what the game plan is. If we haven't gotten together yet, let's start with that assessment, and let's start with the 9 holes because we're still going to have the private coaching time to get out to the golf course again. And listen, the idea is you have so much fun in all of this. You find the value. You want to do it over and over. So there's more to come. That I just try and put the right snippets out at different times of the year to, I do something similar in the Florida season around the holidays. And that sets up the January, February, March crowd.
Right. So for players who want to do it like an ongoing thing for you with you, but they don't know where you are. So what exactly are the times that you're in Florida, and then when are you up north, and how can they get in touch with you in order to be able to schedule things for either one of those locations?
Certainly. As far as scheduling, it's foredoorgolf.com, Fore, and everything is available online, including what locations I'm at. But the seasons is basically June through September up north, early October through most of May down south. I usually do one weekend or something up here, just getting ready for the end of May. And it's a nice compliment on both ends of the spectrum. We're really gangbusters here July and August, and down there, as you know, February is crunch time. So that's how you can find me. That's where you can find me. And I've got 2 locations in Florida at the Orchid Island Golf and Beach Club and at the PGA Village, where I'm still an independent contractor there, but we do golf schools. We have a great deal on golf schools there, actually. And our student-to-teacher ratio is 2-to-1 down there, which is, I think, a little unique. Up here, I'm at the Lake Winnipesaukee Golf Club in New Durham, New Hampshire, next to America's oldest resort town, Wolfboro, on the lake. It's a beautiful summertime spot. And then we actually do year-round training at the Executive Health and Sports Center. I have a Golf Channel Academy, which I know you're familiar with down there at Tiburon. And it's a nice setup where you're going to look for the top golf instruction in northern New England, and you're going to find four-door golf. And I'm only up here through the winter months, but I have a great coach in Patrick Gocklin down at the indoor facility, and he's doing some amazing work with a lot of the up-and-coming junior players for the area.
Now, what does the indoor facility consist of?
We've got 2 hitting bays. One is convertible into a putting green, and we've got launch monitors, foresight monitors for indoor space are about as good as they get. and then high-speed video. We do 3D motion measurement. That is really, a great system for training what we might call the off-season up here, to really get the kinesthetic awareness for the biofeedback, and you can get your coaching time there as well, but also the practice time that you can come in and follow up with in our practice bay there.
Now, are there any kind of fitness programs that you guys run too, or do you kind of try to stay away from that and leave that to separate entities?
Yeah, it's neither Patrick nor myself are fitness trainers, but we are both TPI certified, which we are then qualified and knowledgeable to screen a student, determine, hey, we think these things in my door number 2 to success, how your body works, needs some attention. And I know there's a gentleman by the name of Scott Premier up here that's worked with a lot of Patrick students, and I've got some contacts here in Wolfboro through physical therapy, massage therapy, chiropractic. So definitely an extensive background, but not something that we would structure personally. And at the Executive Health and Sports Center, they have an incredible facility for all of that stuff as well, the PT, the fitness. So really an ideal setup.
Nice. Very nice. So if there was a book that you could recommend to our listeners that you think it would be beneficial for them in either the mental game or the instructional side of golf, what is one of your favorites that you would recommend?
Well, something that is near to my heart of on-course coaching, or really just my fourth door to success, how the game works, is Joe Bosco's Real Golf. And he's a guy that I talk to a few times a year, and always am interested to pick his brain on these things, because he's been studying this stuff as far as the transference of skills and the application of change to the I shoot lower scores. That is a gentleman that I would recommend very highly. And then from a technique side, I'm always keeping up with what Mike Jacobs is putting out down in Long Island, and what he's coming up with, Alpha Man and Torques, and there's just a lot going on there that it takes us coaches to keep up with, to keep filtering it and distilling it to, let's go work on this drill, let's go work on this feel. And that's where I think the game is certainly moving towards, that there's information out there that we all want and should know. Now, how does it get to the end users? That's why we're around.
Yeah, no, true. Absolutely. Well, look, it was great having you on. A lot of awesome information there, and you have some wonderful programs that I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to get involved in. And so thanks so much for being with us. And as we always say in parting here, until we meet again, do your best to keep it in the short grass.
Amen to that.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Bernard.
You've been listening to Breaking Par with your host, Bernard Sheridan. Follow us on Twitter @BreakingPar and on Facebook @Par Breakers Golf Academy. Until next week, try to keep it on the short grass.